So as we're going to look more into expansion, as we understand that expansion itself holds no particular polarities to it. So when you're basically having your spiritual experience, when you're having your broadness of awareness taking place, what is it that represents expansion? When I say that to you, when I say expansion to you, what comes to mind? Openness, vastness, broadness, infinite potential. Well, basically what happens is when one person may say expansion, there will be acceleration, that will then be condensed, filtered, through identity. Expansion suits well as long as I'm able to build some type of rapport with it. Can I normalize expansion? And this is basically what happens to many, many people, myself included, when I first began. Is that, well, if I'm looking at expansion, I'm simply looking at the positive side of life. I'm looking about how we're all one, how everything is just beautiful light, and how everything is just complete and total luminescence, how everything is just bright and colorful and happy. And that's great, because that does represent an aspect of expansion. But where many people don't realize is that the negative is just as important to look at when you're looking at expansion. When you're going through the moments of expansion, when you're feeling the days of expansion, the weeks, the months, the years of continual expansion, it represents these. It represents the positive and the negative, because there can be no expansion if you're only looking at one of those two hemispheres. When you expand, you are looking at the entirety of what your bubble was prior to that expansion. So here's your bubble with you inside. And when you begin to expand that bubble, you are starting to feel an equilibrium to yourself. You're adopting a lot of these new ideas, these understandings that are coming into you, and this is giving you a point of realization. And so that bubble starts to grow a little bit bigger, but it almost feels like there's a stop period, because you're going through such extreme states of expansion that as that starts to broaden itself out more, there becomes a fear. The fear itself is because you're not taking in what has truly expanded. The realization comes through, and you're basically just feeling good about all these realizations that yes, more, please, more, please, more, please. And the universe says no. Just stay exactly where you are in this bubble until you understand. Until you understand what this and this represent. So you're going to go through a representation of a stop period. Because there's an aspect right here that you need to look at. And many who may be within the New Age movement, many who may be within spiritual circles, etc., don't quite understand this yet. What do you talk about? I'm positive. You know, it's rainbows and whiskers on kittens and it's brilliant light. I should be expanding, to the horizon. And you have reached a great deal of expansion toward that horizon on a positive level. But you're only going to go so far through that level of expansion until you are able to gain a harmony with yourself. And that's really enabling yourself to look at the negative aspects of yourself, respecting your darkness. It's not being said that you need to accumulate yourself and involve yourself in darkness, but it's basically being able to understand that expansion holds no polarities. So if all you're going to do is cut it in half and say the positive direction all the way, your expansion is going to limit itself because it's not going to be able to be fully broadened. It's not going to be able to be as vast as it can be when you come to terms with your pain, when you come to terms with your trauma, when you admit your vulnerabilities, when your vulnerabilities are befriended through yourself and you're not having to shy away from yourself. What is not respected becomes feared. That's the key. If there is any aspect about yourself, about others that you have no respect for, those are the elements of fear. So you need to ask, what do I respect? What is it about myself that I respect? What is it about my parents that I respect? What is it about my best friend that I respect? My co-workers, my boss, my husband, my wife, my kids. What is it about them that I respect? And of course, what is it that I don't respect out of them? And that's coming to terms with your fear. When I have no respect for something, it becomes my greatest fear. And this is where you're able to work between the negative back into the positive so that the hemispheres can come together. That's the key. It's not about being positive in your spiritual life. It's not what it's about at all. Positivity, again, functions as a counterbalance. When something may be very off through yourself and you've utilized positive reinforcement, you're bringing this back into the balanced scale. Positive energy is only meant to serve as a counterbalance. It's not meant to be the entirety of your life. Sure, positive energy feels great. It's a fantastic feeling to have. And it definitely is, again, serving its purpose as another particular polarity of that energy. But again, if all you have is positive energy, you're going to develop a lot of fear. And that's what happens with overly positive people, because their reality is just as restricted as someone who is negatively fearful about the world. If you're fully contained within the bubble of positivity, you'll be just as afraid of the world as someone else negatively afraid of the world. That's what it represents. So, this is something to realize. Positive energy can keep you just as trapped as negative energy. It's about the hemispheres bringing themselves into zero balance. It's about containing equilibrium. It's about the nature of neutrality. Nature of neutrality will help you to understand the wholeness of expansion so that this bubble can continue to expand. Alright, there's a stop period. I'm looking at myself. Alright, I'm still holding on to this. I still feel that this is a part of me that I'm not being able to respect. Maybe it's something to do with money. Maybe it's something to do with finances. Maybe it's something to do with career. Maybe it's how I feel very judgmental about a particular aspect in my relationship. I'm going to look into that further. I'm going to move myself into neutrality. I'm going to connect to that energy. I'm going to look into it. Look at eye to eye. And I'm going to release that by accepting, by acknowledging that that exists within me, befriending that vulnerability and feeling very at peace with it. Letting that energy, in regards to its distortion, fade away. Let the essence of that energy bond together with me And now I feel so much more complete. I've admitted that vulnerability. I've befriended that vulnerability. It's a part of who I am. I feel fantastic. Now I can expand. Now I can continue to do it. The universe says, all right, great. Congratulations, Joe. Congratulations, Jenny. You've looked at that pain. You've made that pain now into harmony. It has become forgiven. It has become completely accepted within yourself as it's who you are. And now the expansion continues. Was I able to get through that just by looking at the positive side? No. Was I able just to try and bash that into the ground by looking at the negative side? No. What did I do? I went right here into 0 point. Observation will always give you the purity of presence. It will give you the purity of perspective. So you're not taking sides. And when that upliftment occurs, you'll probably feel very, very positive about it. And then you'll bring yourself back into a state of neutrality. What's next? Let's keep expanding. All right? So that's something to consider. It's not about creating bubbles within your reality. Okay, here's M for me. Here's something with family. Here's something with money. Here's something with job. Here's something with traveling, etc., etc., etc. See how all of these are apart? They're not connecting. When you finally bring these bubbles into yourself, then you have a whole bubble. They're no longer clustered. They're now being brought together into wholeness and into symmetry. That's the connection with expansion. All right? So, meditate on that. Something that you can look into. Again, reality is by interpretation. It's all about how you perceive the understanding of this connection of oneness. It's not about feeling that I can't dare look at that. I can't dare look at that aspect of myself. My God, that's so evil. Get it away from me. Don't let it touch me. And what's happening? You don't respect it, it becomes fear. It becomes your fear. So this is what it is. There's so many people that want to sweep that stuff under the rug. It's going to come back because it's what you fear. So bring your fear into respect. Bring respect into resolve. Gain resolving through neutrality and liberate. That's the key. All right. Now, moving on about time. It holds no substance. Okay? I hear this to death with people. Brad, oh my God, time is speeding up. Time is going through such an acceleration right now. We're just experiencing all this at once. You are going through an acceleration. You are experiencing many things at once. But it has nothing to do with this. There is no time. There isn't. There's no such thing. It's just the same as if you were to have a measuring stick, a meter. Okay? If I take out a ruler and I start measuring this line, do those measurements really exist? Does it really matter? Do I have to justify what this line's purpose is by measuring it? No. I can take that ruler and go, huh, that's a pretty short line. Or I can take that ruler and I can just basically slowly move along. My God, that was a long line. Time is simply defined by rate of motion in measurement. Has nothing to do with time at all. When you're accelerating, guess what you're doing? You're becoming multi-dimensional. It is a process of actually becoming more multidimensional by being encapsulated with event or events that literally become your reality. Now, being entranced in that reality or those realities can create the illusion that time is speeding up, but it really has nothing to do with that at all. Nothing to do with time. It doesn't exist. It never has existed. Simply because you cannot prove that time exists. There's no possible way that you can. It's not about showing your watch to a person. Well, you're basically doing this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on a digital level and on an analog level, and those are two little hands moving back and forth. That doesn't indicate that time exists. That's continuity. You're playing with a game of continuity, and in this continuity, the event becomes so extreme. It becomes so intense because now you are mastering aspects of your mind where event or events become the totality of your reality. You're experiencing non-linear continuity. This is part of the higher dimensional, multi-dimensional aspects. It's nothing to do with time. I just love that when a person says, "Oh, Brad, we got 3D time here, and time is just speeding up so quickly, and it's all 3D. Everything's 3D." I love that. I love that saying. "Brad, it's so 3D. What are you doing here? It's so 3D." What the hell does that even mean? I don't. It's interesting. It really is very interesting. And again, that's just my perspective. When a person says, "Oh my God, Brad, that's so 3D of you." It's so 3D of me. That's cute. Well, first of all, we're not in 3D. We've never been in 3D. We've been in what's known as third density, but that's not really 3D. Okay? We've always been in 4D. We've always been in the idea of 3 dimensions of space, of 1 dimension of time. There's never been a 3D. There's been a third density, and we're moving into a 4th density nexus. So 3D, in regards to time, in regards to saying, well, that must be the ego domain, is a buzzword. It's something that's just feels nice and popular, and maybe something that's really cool to say. It's very new agey. It's cute. But really has nothing to do with anything. And again, this is where fear comes in. If you're saying, "Oh my God, John or Joe or Jenny, you're being so 3D today," what happens with that? That's a judgment. And that represents an aspect of fear. Because it's a person who wants to keep themselves high in the rainbows and feel, let's just think positive today. Let's just think positive. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. You're taking that broom and you're sweeping that under the rug. What is it about that person that you felt you couldn't respect for yourself? And that's what creates your fear. So it has nothing to do with that time itself is responsible for your acceleration. No, it isn't. The meter stick, if I have a meter stick in my hand and I start measuring out this desk and I do it very slowly or very quickly, is that the result of the desk automatically growing or shrinking? No. It is my depth perception pertaining to measurement. And again, that's the same thing pertaining to time. It's a measurement tool. It's a unit of continuity that we use for convenience, but it's not really what is. It doesn't matter if this desk right beside me is 2.5 feet wide. It's a desk. I'm not always going to be looking at that desk and saying, well, it's only 2.5 feet wide, so it must not serve a very good purpose. I can still use a 2.5 foot desk pretty well, regardless of its measurements. I can still exist in many events, in many dimensions at the same time. Doesn't matter about its time measurements. Who cares? It's the event that matters. It's the experience that you receive from the event of that multi-dimensional capability, aspect, acceleration that you're going through to hold these different sequences of events in a multi-dimensional spectrum that seem that there's an acceleration of the measurement of time, but you're simply attuning yourself into multi-dimensional cohesion. So, time holds no substance. It is a measurement. It is not defining your events. It simply represents that unit of continuity distance based on motion. All right? So again, something else to meditate on. Reality is by interpretation. What do you feel about that? This is again what's coming through me, and it's all based upon what you feel is your perception. If you enjoyed time, great. That's great. Time is a measurement, and it can certainly be a very helpful tool, but it does not define the flow of event. It does not define the acceleration or the lack thereof of an event. You do, not time. All right? So feel free to ponder on that, meditate on that, allow that to show itself in all the ways it needs to for your understanding. Thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Brad Johnson. Feel free to go to consciousmatrix.com. Lots of private sessions, lots of more videos, lots of great stuff for you to go ahead and check out. Any questions on this video, info@consciousmatrix.com. With love and appreciation to all who are watching. May it be well with you. Namaste, and talk to you soon. Goodbye.